Hello there, good people. Today you're gonna see mostly my pedals and my amp, and not my hands. But here's a little bit of my hand. So what I'm gonna do today is a little bit different because I'm gonna take you pretty much from scratch. So you can see the process where I find a new sound from scratch. And the reason I do it this way instead of just sticking to one sound or many. Hey there, Dave. What's up, man? The main reason being I get bored if I play the same sound over and over. So what I've done recently is I've used my Kemper, which is not here. It's on the side and you can't see it. I've used the Kemper for a lot of the high gain sounds. And a big advantage with the Kemper is the fact that it's very easy to control sound dynamics. Now the Kemper itself is not at all as natural sounding dynamic-wise as a real amp, but you have much more control over those dynamics. So if you tweak them enough, you can not only get very close to a real amp, but you can also get basically sounds and dynamics that would be almost impossible to get with an amp. For example, you have this what's it called? Oh, I keep forgetting. But like you can change the bias and stuff like that just digitally. Man, I can't remember the words. Who cares? But anyhow, with a tube amp is a little bit different. But when you drive it home with a tube amp, it's superior to me. That's why I have this amp. I think it's really superior. Whenever I manage to find a sound that I like here, it just beats everything else. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to try to dial in a high gain sound, which is playable, which means not only is it hopefully going to sound really good, but I also want it to be easy to play. And for that purpose, not only does this amp have a lot of options, which we are going to try to go through, but I also have two compressors here. So I have the Wampler and I have the Dynacomp. I also have two distortion pedals. Right now, where are they? So here they are. But right now I've removed the Tube Screamer, not because I don't like it, but because I don't have any space left on my pedal board. I like the Tube Screamer a lot, but I have a Friedman BE overdrive here, which is also really cool for high gain sounds. It's this one. So I don't know yet what I'll be using. I'll just be using these tools to try to find something. And that also answers the question which I get quite often: why do I need all these pedals? Well, I don't really need them, but they are tools that are extremely useful. So I can definitely get a whole bunch of good sounds without them, but I can get even more sounds with them. And that's kind of the point here. It's a bit like you're building a house. Sure, you could probably do it with a minimal amount of tools, but why would you do that? It's so much more convenient to have the tools you need, and the better the tools, the better the house, and that's my philosophy here. So that's why I have a lot of pedals, and that's why I don't always use them. I just use whatever I need for the moment, and we're going to do exactly that. Lil A, you cannot buy an amp from me, sorry. 101 skills. Hello there, what's up, my man? What is the big pedal that says Big Sky? Cool, that's a good question. This is the Strymon Big Sky. It's a reverb pedal, and it's a very nice pedal, and I've just actually scratched the surface, but it was so easy to find a few good reverbs. I haven't gone through them all. But actually yesterday, for the twangy videos I uploaded in my short, if you check my shorts from yesterday, I used a new spring reverb setting that I haven't been using before, and I think it sounds awesome. So very cool reverb pedal. Of course, for high gain, I'm not going to be using spring reverb. That's more like a twangy kind of boomer, old rock and roll boogie kind of thing. I'm generalizing here, but I'm probably going to use a different reverb than I did yesterday. That reverb is very good. We're going to be using it. I have a distortion pedal, warp pedal, and delay pedal. What pedal do you recommend I get next? Distortion, warp pedal, and delay pedal. Well, that's a good option. I mean, you can never get too many distortion pedals. There are too many, or there are so many different ones. But one pedal that is often overlooked is the EQ pedal. This one, and you can only see half of it, but that's a 10-band EQ. It's this one. Now you can see. So That's a MXR 10-band EQ. So if you do have a little bit of understanding for frequencies, that can really take your sounds to new places. I use it in the beginning of my chain, and basically as a way to change the output of the guitar before it hits the amp. Then I have several different EQ options on the amp. For example, here is a powerful EQ on the amp. It's a graphic EQ, but it has a very different function since it comes after the preamp. And as I said, the EQ pedal I have is right after the guitar, so it's a really cool way to change the color of the pickups of the guitar, basically. Just the same way you use an overdrive, but it gives me even more control. And then, of course, this amp, like most amps, has, you know, bass, treble, and mid-range and that stuff. That's on many amps that doesn't really control the frequencies the same way a graphic EQ does. It does so much more. So for example, the treble knob on this amp is insane. It kind of changes the character of the distortion. So it's much more than just EQ, whereas the 10-band EQ is really just, you know, the pedal that I pointed out here. It's really just change the frequencies and then you can boost. Compressor, I mean, it can be important, but it's not a necessity. I mean, if you're into high gains and you have good high gain coming from your amp, a good pedal, most of the time you don't need a compressor. I use a compressor for very fine tuning for high gain, so I don't always use it. Today I'm probably going to do it since I will try to dial in a shred-friendly sound, but in many cases you don't need the compression for a distorted sound. For a clean sound, it can be more useful. So yesterday I did have, I think, maybe 2 compressors for that twangy sound. But you got to be very careful. You know, it's very easy to just squash the sound. Your amp has built-in distortion, but it's not that good. Yeah, a lot of times, especially if you have a tube amp, what you can do is, if you don't think the distortion is enough, but it's usually a pretty high quality distortion, it comes from a tube amp, then adding pedals can be very useful. So it all changes depending on what amp and what setup and all that, but most of the time if you have some basic distortion coming from the amp and you just need more, then you can definitely fix that with an overdrive pedal, for example. Christopher sits when he pees. Yeah, I like it. Why not? I'm tired. My amp has built-in distortion. Okay, so maybe we should just play a little bit and we can see here. Like I said, I haven't tweaked at all yet. So now this sound, it doesn't do that much for me. Or I mean, it's a pretty good basic sound because I'm using the Mark I voice of the overdrive channel on my amp here. But it's very bass heavy. It won't cut through. It has a really nice kind of sponginess to it, and that's again credit to the amp and the voicing. But it's it's okay in terms of playability, but we can make it more playable. So I think the first step of what I would do here is to start tweaking the basic sound on the amp before adding any pedals. So none of these pedals are engaged with the exception of the reverb pedal and the noise gate and that stuff. But none of the distortion or EQ or compression pedals are engaged. Sorry, that one was engaged, but it's no longer engaged. Okay, so here it is without the compression pedal. Okay, so let's remove some of that darkness. It's still very dark. It's the voicing of the... So you can hear how that voicing just adds a ton of low end. So that's a different voicing. That's no longer Mark I. It's called crunch. Let's see if I can remove this. This is a totally different sound now, different voicing. This would be your go-to, I don't know, for some crunchy, maybe AC/DC stuff or something. But that's not what we're looking for today. I still think the Mark I voicing is the way to go. We'll tweak it some more, because even if it's kind of dark sounding here, And that gives me a good foundation. It has that kind of smooth, creamy flow, and I can further add on top of that sound using my pedals, and that's going to serve me well, the darkness. It sounds bad with the darkness. Well, I'll go back to Mark 1 here. So one option I have, since turning the and the reason you're not getting that much treble is also because the cabinet simulator I have is very roomish and dark, and I prefer that one actually, but that's also why a lot of I think why the treble doesn't have that much effect right now. But we can go over to the EQ section. So I'm going to engage the graphic EQ. Okay, so I'm going to try to tweak the... Let me see, I hope you guys can hear me when I speak and my head is close to the amp. I'll turn the mic a little bit. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now when I say 1, 2, 3? Hopefully you can hear me. So now I'll engage the sliders here for channel 2. And I think I'm gonna control the low end a little bit, see if we can boost it somehow here. Yeah, that's good. So without that tweak, we have very dark. Now it's much more mid-rangey and not as bass heavy. Now I did keep the 2000 hertz meter down. Let's turn it up a little bit. And now we get really the brightness back here. This is not so bad actually. You could use this, I think, as a starting point, and then we can add pedals on top of that. Cool, you confirm you can hear me, great. No, I look at the chat now. I just trying to focus also on what I'm doing here. So Mark Thick, let's. So now the thick mode is engaged. It's a very cool switch. Gives you a heap of low end, but in a pretty tight setting, you know. It's not boomy depending on how you tweak it. I think this is too much for now. We can engage that later on if we want to. So this would be my sort of starting point before adding pedals. Or wait, there's one more thing I want to try. Because this amp has a variac switch. And we're gonna turn that like from standard full power to variac. I don't know how that's pronounced, by the way. Back to full power. Both are pretty cool. I find that variac a lot of time is good for shreddy stuff because it does give you some sponginess, but without the pedals I think the full power sounds better actually. Yeah, the full power has just more low and more, it's a fuller sound basically. So I'll keep that. I mean, it's still a little bit on the bass heavy sound, but sometimes if you want a shreddy sound, you do need some, like a foundation, low end foundation. So I'm no expert in Van Halen tone. We'll see whatever we end up with once we're done with this. Let's see. Okay, so what do we do now? Whew, we have lots of options. Question is if I'm gonna go for the EQ pedal first. See if I could turn this a little bit. Yeah. It's always hard to mess with the setup once we're rolling here, but now you can see the 10-band EQ here. I don't know, maybe I don't want to use it because I don't really think EQ is the issue here. We're looking for more of like dynamics and attack. So I think what I'm gonna do to probably engage a distortion pedal, and maybe that's gonna be enough so we don't need to mess with compressors and stuff like that. Or maybe we just do some final tweaks with the compressor to just optimize playability. But right now I think we're still searching for really cool sound. So this is the Friedman B overdrive. So, and now it's bordering too bright all of a sudden. Like I said, I started with a pretty dark sound, and then I said, well, we can always add brightness via pedals, and that's exactly what happened now, and it's actually too bright, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I don't think we're there in Iron Maiden. I have a cable that's in the way here. Let's try this. Okay, I don't know what you guys are saying. I'm not really happy with this sound. Well, I mean, it's a sound, but I don't know if it's very shred friendly. I don't know. You like the sound? That's a start, but we're not really there yet. I think let's try what we could do now. We could either try different distortion. I mean, the full tone OCD, this pedal gives me a very different kind of distortion than the Friedman B overdrive. I guess the Friedman is it's based on that famous amp, but it's also, I guess, in the Marshall vein, whereas the full tone OCD is a different beast. But I don't know. I think what I'm looking for is a high gain thing, and full tone OCD does that, but it's also more of a like dynamic thing. I think I'm gonna stick with this sound for now, and I'm gonna try a little bit compression and see what happens. Well, that did help for playability. I don't know how much you think it... Do you think it's too much treble? Maybe, yeah, but I also want to cut through. So the goal is to, have something... Why am I not hearing the loop? This is weird. Well, I was gonna show you a loop here, but For some reason, the loop isn't sounding. Well, I want to be able to play this in a context, right? So, so that's why I'm gonna need some brightness. Maybe it's a little bit bright, but I don't think it's too much. That's what you need to cut through. Of course, if I'm going to use this to record my shorts, a lot of times I don't even have a backing track, so you'd have a point from that perspective. But I'm always trying to balance my sound in a way so that they would work in a mix. And then if you're not playing them in a mix, you can always add a little bit more low end, just get some thickness. And you would do that. You could do that in a way you would never do if you had a band setting. But yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have to troubleshoot that pedal later on. This is what I hate with pedals, and this is why it took me a good 15 years to actually get serious about a pedal board, is because there's so much more troubleshooting going on than if you have like just a digital unit or just use all onboard effects. But anyhow, I'm going to do some A and B testing now with and without the compressor. So that's without it. With it. So it's a little bit more, I do feel that the fingers get a better flow, and it's always a compromise because the notes are somewhat flattened here. If we just play some licks with the compressor, without the compressor, I do think there's more articulation. It's basically a little bit more interesting without the compressor. With it. But it doesn't sound bad in any way. So I mean, this is definitely a keeper if we want to make something shred friendly, which is really the topic of this one. It's interesting. You know, one test I do to see if the sound is too compressed is this kind of articulated playing. I mean, at a minimum, that kind of thing should sound okay. I think it does. Yeah, without it. It's more interesting without it, but again, this gives me so much. It gives me so much playability in return. It's definitely worth it. Okay, so what we can do now is we can go back a little bit, tweaking on the amp and see what that gives us. For example, I'd like to try the variac switch with this sound. Full power. So I actually think the variac switch now gives me a more playable sound. That's full power. Let's do variac. Let's try the Mark I thick switch now. Okay, so the thick switch gives me too much low end. Someone said that the sound was too bright. And now it should have more bottom end, right? This is a little bit too much for a mix. I might engage it for my shorts, you know, if I'm playing without any backing. But right now, I think I'll stick without it. Now, also one thing I could try is if I disengage the graphic EQ on the amp, it's this one, just to remind you. If I disengage that, we're going to get, I think, a totally different sound. It's not bad. Doesn't have the same brightness at all. Now, the Mesa Boogie also allows you to use like a preset EQ on the amp, so I'm going to try that instead. So this is darker. This is actually pretty cool. It's a totally different EQ curve. This is like a V curved, so it's scooped. Now we don't hear a lot of mid-range, so those of you who thought the sound was too bright, this is the sound that a lot of people dial in when they're playing on their own. They like this kind of sound, and then it doesn't work in the mix at all. That's okay, you know. I just wanted a shred-friendly sound. It doesn't have to work in the mix. So if I like the sound, but I think it's too dark, then I have a couple of different options. I could either just, there's a knob for the preset, but it doesn't give me a lot of control. Now I just turned it down a little bit. This is actually pretty good. The levels are a bit low now, but but what I can do instead is go back to the graphic EQ and instead dial in a V curve of my own. So I'm going to totally skip the setting I have now and just try to dial in a V curve. Okay, here's the first attempt. This is actually pretty cool, I think. It's a little bit pushed, like there's too much distortion. And now bear in mind that we haven't tweaked the delay and the reverb yet. So once we have like a basic distortion sound that we like and that it responds the way we want it to when shredding, then is the time to kind of go in and finalize the sound with a bit of lush reverb and delay and that stuff. But we're not there yet. Okay, so basically, I think what we're hearing now is the famous headroom is kind of gone now. There's no headroom here, and that's what you get when you push the sound because you want playability. So that has that kind of pushed feel. I mean, I've heard worse for sure, but how does it? Yeah, it's bordering too much low end, right? When I do some riffing here. Oh, I think someone needs to be banned here. The might whatever. Hello there, Much. I'm gonna have to ban you. Sorry about that. So half of the chat messages are gone. Tarsus, you don't need a lot of pedals, but they are like tools. It doesn't hurt to have them because all of a sudden you need tools for a specific job, like a specific sound you're looking for, and that's when the tools can help you. Okay. Well, this is a pretty cool sound now. Again, it's not mix friendly, but it's getting player friendly. I think what had the most impact, I'm not sure you agree, but that was when I started tweaking the graphic EQ. So I probably should devote some more time to that. it's extreme. Okay, this is much less extreme. I want to actually see if I can get rid of that harsh top band. It's a little bit scooped. So I'm trying an uneven V shape now. That's new to me. Let's try it. So what I'm trying to do is basically extract some of the advantages of this scooped V shape in terms of playability and feel, while also trying to get rid of the harshest top ends, because I found that with a V shape you can get some very harsh, like high frequencies. I mean, you get rid of the mids, but the harsh stuff can be there. But the problem is if you remove the mids and the high frequencies, you're left with nothing but some low end, and that can be a problem. Cosmic, going to like and subscribe. Thank you. Gonzalo, thank you. I don't know dead memories, sorry. Slavic username, what's up? Rat, we will add reverb and delay. I just don't like doing that when I tweak the basic character of the sound. So when I'm looking to tweak the basic attack and that stuff, if you have lots of reverb and delay, that's just gonna distort what you're hearing. It's gonna be harder to just understand what's going on, because the reverb and the delay is gonna kind of mask your attack. So I do have a little bit of reverb here, but I could actually turn it completely off just to be in control of what I'm doing. But before finalizing the sound, I will definitely add the reverb. So here's without the reverb. Actually, this is cool. I should probably have tweaked it like this. With it. This is pretty good. It's a little bit on the bass heavy sound, so let's see. Well, that was too much, wasn't it? This is pretty cool. Now, if I try to dial back the treble on the guitar now, I get a super smooth. What happens if we increase? Oh, you think there's too much distortion? Maybe. Per Nilsson, why not? Mange Schmidt, are you Swedish? Har vi en till svenska? Vad trevligt. So I think it's okay. It's in the ballpark now of what I had in mind, something shreddy. I mean, it's not very mix friendly, but it's shreddy, and you can see the interesting EQ curve we got going. It's not really a V, it's more like a stairway, and then it goes up. But the problem is still, I think I would like a bit more help with the notes, a bit more compression help. So in spite of what you guys said, I'm gonna see if I can maybe tweak I'm gonna boost the signal a little bit. And the first attempt before I go to the EQ pedal is to add some volume on the distortion pedal. Not that bad. Yeah, man. Härligt. Okay, so just to give you a hint of, you know, the end product where we have some reverb and delay. I think this is too much if you ask me, but so what we could, since this is such a scooped sound, what you can do is kind of compensate for that in the reverb. So you could basically boost the mids a little bit in the reverb just to, again, compensate for the fact that you're not hearing that much mids. And I could also turn down the bass a little bit, because again, if the starting sound is already very bass heavy, you really don't want a reverb that does the same thing, add even more bass. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So let's add the delay as well, see what happens. It's not that bad now, is it? It has a certain amount of sponginess to it. Cool, you like it? Awesome. I was never a big fan of Boss Metal Zone, but if you, and I don't know Boss Metal Zone 2, but if you're into that kind of death metal sound, then for sure get it. I mean, it's an iconic sound. Blekingebo, härligt. Maybe you have better winter than us here in Stockholm. Okay, so it's kind of bass heavy, but I can control that with the tone knob a little bit. Okay, let's see now if we can do something to control the attack of the notes a bit more. So just that final touch where we make playability even better. And I think if I can get that, then this is a sound I'm going to go for and record some short videos with this sound. So one thing we can do is switch to the 10 watt mode on the amp. I think I might have somewhat of a preamp tube issue, so I hope that's not going to go make the levels go crazy. Let's see. Oh, it did, damn. back to 45 now. So the 10 watt mode does exactly that. It squashes the headroom, and it gives you the feeling of a bit smoother playing. But it's a heavy compromise on sound as well. So I don't think I'm gonna go that route. I'd rather just tweak the compression a little bit more. So what I'm gonna do now is completely turn down the attack parameter of the Ego Wampler. If I turn it back up, back down. I'm going to turn it way up, see how much we lose when we do this. I don't know. I think we can turn that down actually. Turn down the tone knob as well. Cool. So how do I get the guitar audio to the YouTube live stream? So I do that with this pedal. That's a more radar, and it gives me a cabinet simulation. So that way I can use this. It's a little bit hard to show you, but can't show you. But I have a power attenuator standing right here. So the power attenuator completely acts as a dummy load. So I don't hear the cabinet in the room at all. So everything we're hearing right now is coming from this more radar. And that has the big advantage that we hear the same thing. Because I've done live streams in the past where I hear the real cab and you hear a mic cab or whatever. And that never works well because you hear something different. But we're hearing the exact same thing now. Or I might be hearing a little bit of the, the electric guitar unamplified, just hitting the strings. But that doesn't have a big impact. So basically you're hearing a line sound, and that's what makes the sound quality better than if I had just my iPhone microphone. Let's see if I can turn down the gain a little bit, because I did turn up the volume. This is without the Friedman overdrive pedal. With it, it's a pretty cool pedal actually. It has way too much gain though, or for my taste, but there's an internal trim pot which is really cool. So I already turned it down a little bit just to get lower gain settings, but I think I'm gonna have to turn it down even more because you can see, I don't know if you can see now, but the gain is almost at 0 now, so I can't go below this, and it's still giving me a lot of gain. But that's because I'm also using it as a booster. I have the volume turned up. But what happened now, I turned down the gain and all of a sudden playability suffered, right? I get better articulation. But those legato runs are a little bit harder. So I'm going to turn down the volume knob and turn up the gain a little bit. little bit not... it feels a little bit flat. I don't know. I think this is pretty cool. Could probably go with this. Yeah. So how much mid-range am I using? Not much at all. And this is a very scooped sound. So like I said earlier, I would not try to play this in a mix unless I was going for some crazy, I don't know, Pantera stuff or something. But for what I'm gonna do now, I want to shred friendly sound, and hopefully I'll record some cool shorts. I think this might do it. Cool, Rat. So you hear every note better as you said it. That's awesome. So I was gonna play over a loop, but for some super crazy reason, I'm not hearing my looper pedal. So let me just check what could be wrong here. I'm gonna have to go... I'm gonna go behind the amp and see. Okay, weird. So I just unplugged the power cable to the pedal. I don't know why, but that's as I was saying earlier. That's what I hate with the pedal board. You have much more troubleshooting. So this was a weird one. I mean, the pedal seemed fine. Let's see if you can even see the pedal I'm speaking about. So I'm speaking about this, ouch, little sucker here. So it looked fine, light was on, everything seemed fine, but it's still no sound. So I just had to unplug the power source. I have no idea why. So now we can try this sound in a mix or over a loop, and maybe you're gonna hear that it's not optimal for cutting through, but still cool to see it in action. That's not so bad, is it? So, of course, this is not a really like busy mix, right? If I were playing over a rock backing track, I think maybe the sound would struggle more, but I mean, it works for this, right? Still very scooped, but it does cut through. Just give me a second. Yeah, true. This has a bit of a Satriani vibe. You're right about that. Turning up the bass actually seemed to work. Yeah, that worked. So yeah, pretty cool. I think this is usable. So hopefully we can get some shorts recorded. So I think this calls for an end of the session now. But I wanted to try something different. I sometimes feel that I repeat myself too much in my sessions and just want to try new topics. So hopefully you found this useful. If you do want to request other things we can, do in these live streams, I'm more than eager to hear what you're thinking. So what I did today was something I would do on a regular basis without showing you. Of course, it's going to be a much faster process if I don't, explain everything. But still, this will probably take me a good 20 minutes to do. Just try to find a new sound. Sometimes it takes me forever and I just fail. But it's been absolutely lovely having you around. And I want to thank you for kind of leading the chat and asking me questions so we can kind of explore different things in my setup here, and that's really appreciated. So you guys have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I've been Christopher Dahl. See you soon again. Cheers.